The lack of electricity had transformed the city into a festering sanitation crisis. Water no longer flowed, sewage overflowed into the streets, and bathrooms had become cesspools of filth. Flies swarmed and rats scurried through the chaos as people relieved themselves wherever they could. Izzy and Ira had managed to avoid this grim reality while staying at Yuri's, but that fragile separation from filth and desperation had been torn away. One night, Izzy found himself in a crumbling building, navigating dark, narrow corridors filled with the overpowering stench of decay. He found a corner to relieve himself, the flicker of candlelight casting eerie shadows on the walls. Suddenly, a woman entered the dimly lit space, oblivious to his presence. Awkward silence filled the air as she moved closer, lifted her skirt, and squatted. Izzy was mortified, frozen in place. The encounter was fleeting. She quickly moved on, but the moment left Izzy shaken. A stark and personal reminder of the degradation they were all enduring. Izzy walked down the hall in the opposite direction. Cockroaches scurried out of the way as he made his way down a littered, scattered corridor. Izzy lit a candle that was down to its last portion of wick and descended a stairwell. The stairwell had a decaying smell to it. Curiosity drove him deeper into the shadows, closer to the source of the odor. The buzz of flies drew his attention. At the bottom, his candle illuminated a ghastly sight. Dead animals hung beneath the stairs, their throats slit, and a message scrawled on the wall in blood. Death to Dajjal. On another wall, there was a meticulous colored chalk illustration predicting the things to come. The globe was in flames and the streets ran with blood. Beside it, a disturbing image depicted a monstrous figure with a single glaring eye, a white complexion, and curly locks that looked like snakes slithering down his shoulders. 3 letters were engraved on his forehead. Kafir. He rode on a donkey, and everything around him was devastated. This Dajjal extended his nail-pierced palms towards the world. At the fingertips of one hand was a lush garden, and a flame of fire was at the other. He offered a choice: heaven or hell. The flickering candle highlighted the grotesque prophecy, its darkness closing around Izzy as the candle's final wax dripped onto his hand. Days later, Izzy and Ira found a brief reprieve when the government offered shelter on an old Navy ship docked in the Potomac. The ship's metal hull creaked and groaned, amplifying the isolation that clung to the vessel like a heavy fog. As Izzy lay in his makeshift bed, the Secretary of State's words echoed in his mind.
Life as we know it just changed forever.
Around him, uneasy faces filled the dimly lit room, faces of people just as disoriented and lost as he felt. Among them, an old woman clutched a flask, her hand lifting to her lips with this hypnotic consistency like a pendulum. A young woman rose from a blanket, straightened her clothes, and took money from the man lying beneath her. This harsh new reality pressed on Izzy's chest, suffocating him. Izzy's gaze fell upon a sleeping man. The scene seemed quite ordinary, but something about it captivated him, compelling him to reach for his pencil. A few swift strokes, and the image of the sleeping man began to take form on the paper. Izzy became so engrossed in his art that he noticed the rat nibbling at the man's toes in his drawing before he realized it was happening in reality. Izzy began to gag, but something compelled him to keep going, capturing the moment right up to the point where the man screamed. Desperate to escape, Izzy made his way to the deck. The stale, metallic taste of nausea lingered as he leaned over the railing and vomited. a hollow ache settling in and replacing any dignity he once clung to. This is not the life I imagined, he thought to himself. My only dream was to be an artist like my father. He gasped for fresh air, his throat burning with every swallow. The clumpy residue in his mouth was unbearable. He doubled over and vomited again, and slowly sank to his knees, curling up in misery. For a half an hour, Izzy lay motionless on the deck, wiping his sleeve across his nose and mouth in a futile attempt to erase the putrid residue and what little dignity he had left. He knew he should get up, find focus, but the thought felt insurmountable. A deep, unshakable despair gripped him, wrapping around his soul like iron chains. In this moment, he wished he were dead.
My American dream, if I can call it that, was to be an artist, like my father. I was considered a child prodigy, studying under the best in all of Israel. Since the day of my grandfather's funeral, where I turned down my art scholarship and enrolled in the yeshiva, I have become jaded, even institutionalized, using religion to get approval, free food in the marketplaces, and the best seats in the synagogues. I was Ira's nephew, and, in the eyes of most, that meant I was somebody. I was no longer a stranger in a strange land, that old city of Jerusalem. I became one of those bearded idiots my father had talked about. Deep down, I despise myself. Mag'il, ichs. Watching myself from the outside, I realized an uncomfortable truth. I've been using religion as a tool, a way to gain approval in the eyes of both man and God. What once felt like a safe anchor has become a hollow insurance policy, one that was ripped to pieces right in front of my face. The moment the lightning storm struck,